Have you ever had something painful, stressful, or frustrating happen and felt powerless to change it? So today I want to share a practice that changed how we deal with those moments. So I'm Mercedes and I have done 30 years of my own personal development and explored lots of different practices. And now I help other people who want to come back to stillness, to calm, and to peace, and to live the life that they know they were destined for. And the idea is in this video that by the end of it, you're going to understand the ancient Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono, what it actually is, why it's so powerful, and how you can start practicing it with compassion rather than blame. So that being said, let's jump in. What is Ho'oponopono? I'm here you asking, and you may know, and that's fine. And if you don't, I'm going to just give you a quick rundown. So it's an ancient practice, ancient Hawaiian practice of self-directed healing. And the whole idea is that we don't go around when things happen saying we're going to fix what someone else is doing, we're going to fix their behavior, we're going to sort this out. We look at everything that happens and we say we're going to take responsibility for it because my world has been co-created by me. So I'm responsible for everything that happens in the world. And we'll discuss a bit more about that later. And so I'm going to heal that part in me that's created this element in my life. And just remember that there is a huge difference between responsibility and fault and blame and all of those things. So we're talking about taking responsibility. And when we heal our inner world, it shifts how you relate to the outer problems as well as necessarily things that happen. So I'm a firm believer in it and I've practiced it a lot. The words are, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And we'll go into this as we go through this. And at the end, we'll do a little practice just to kind of cement it into how it works for you. And this practice basically says that everything that shows up in your experience can be healed by healing the part of you that feels responsible for it, or that is responsible for it, or that reacts to it. So we heal ourselves and we don't worry about what anyone else is doing. We don't take that responsibility on. So if you've not heard the story of where Ho'opono, not where it came from because it's a really ancient practice, but how it became kind of more mainstream. It was brought into the mainstream by Joe Vitale, and I have done his Ho'oponopono training course and advanced course to really delve into what it's all about. And essentially this came when he discovered the story of Dr. Hugh Lin, who was the psychiatrist working in the Hawaiian State Hospital. And he didn't actually meet his patients directly. And then he was like, what do you mean you didn't meet them? And what he did was he would get their files and he would read their files and then he would practice Ho'oponopono directed towards himself for the part of him that created the psychiatric problems in this person. And over time, what happened is people started to get better in the hospital. So they were having staff shortages and sick days, and it was the whole hospital, they were living under this like cloud of fear essentially. And after he'd been there for a while, things got easier. Patients started to behave in a different way and they were softer, they were less aggressive, they were less violent. More people were turning up for work. People were getting discharged because they were getting better. And so actually what happened is you saw less people in the hospital, like they needed less staff. And everything, eventually the hospital closed because there was no need for it, which is quite staggering. And I'm telling you this story not because like, let's go out in life and recreate shifting everything in our lives, because that again is something that we would then need to heal because we're then trying to create these expectations about where we want to be. But use it as inspiration for something where you know that if something's really tough for you, it's really difficult, come to that self-healing, come to that self-connection and see what you can shift and what you can move. And just be curious with it, play with it, and investigate where you can go. So now I want to go back a little bit because we were talking, before we get into the practice of Ho'oponopono and actually doing some, I want to talk about responsibility versus blame. Now, I have done other videos on this, but I think this is really important because I think it's something that people often confuse and get muddled up. And people hear the word responsibility when they say you're responsible for everything that occurs in your life. And they instantly think, so you're saying it's my fault. So if this happens to me, it's my fault. And if that happens to me, it's my fault. That's not what Ho'oponopono says. It's not about blame. It's not about saying you're at blame, you're at fault for this and you're at fault for that. It's the opposite of fault. It's about shifting yourself out of blaming. So you're not blaming the other person, you're not blaming yourself, you're blaming nobody, but you are taking responsibility. So I've spoken this before, and I've actually split it up in this way before. So your responsibility is your ability to respond, your ability to heal your part of the emotional experience. So it's about taking that responsibility. And when we do that, when we see it in that way, we realize how empowered we are, that we have the ability to respond however we choose to respond. There are things like big world events, and Ho'oponopono does touch on this. So like if you were experiencing watching war and the effects of war, and you may be nothing to do with that, it may be different countries on the other side of the world, but it's impacting you, then you are partly responsible for what is happening. You're not at fault, you're not to blame, you're not involved in it, but you are partly responsible. So you can then heal that part of you that is responsible. And if the whole world decided to heal themselves and didn't worry about what anybody else was doing, they healed themselves based on what they see and what they're experiencing and everything that comes forward, where would the world be? And Dr. Hewlin, having watched him quite a bit, would say, so what I've just said, do Ho'oponopono on that, because I'm already creating a world where everybody is loving and self-healing and doing all of these wonderful things. So that again is a creation that I'm creating that still needs to be healed, because it's an ideal, it's an image, and it's something that needs to be cleared. Because ultimately, when we heal everything, we come to what he calls 0 point. So that's like where we connect to God, where we connect to the universe, where we connect to source. And there's nothing. So there is no thoughts of healing. There's no thoughts of responsibility or blame or fault or all of these things. They don't exist when we heal everything. There's nothing to heal. So we're healed when we come to 0. I find it, to me, it's like, I quite enjoy it because I've got a degree in maths and I find it quite a mathematical concept. And the whole, I could quite easily geek out on the philosophy of 0 and the scientific basis behind the fact that 0 doesn't really exist as a number. It's not really a number, but it is a number, but it's not a number. It's a long mathematical philosophy that's been going on for hundreds of years that has been a debate. So 0 was the last number that was classed as a number because it's nothing. So it's not really a number. I'll leave it at that because I'm not going to go into that on this subject. But I find that this Ho'oponopono thing, where we're clearing everything out to come back to 0, to come back to nothing, to come back to source, is a bit like that whole concept, because it's really hard to grasp, because it's not, you're coming back to nothing, and we can't imagine what that's like. And the minute we start trying to imagine it, we're out of it. So we then need to go back to healing it. But anyway, that's advanced Ho'oponopono when we go in there. Ultimately, what we do on a daily basis with Ho'oponopono is just try and clear what comes up on a daily basis. And so, like in the example of war, you're not responsible for a war happening, but I am responsible for fear, pain, anger that rises in me when I see it, and I can heal that part. So we go for responsibility, not blame, not fault. We're not at fault for anything, but we are responsible for everything. So actually practicing Ho'oponopono, I apologise. I realise I've gone slightly off on a tangent then, but that's fine. That's what I do. The 4 phrases that you direct inward to yourself are: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. And you always say them to yourself, okay? You never say them to someone else. So if you're having a difficult situation with somebody, and this is a really great time to practice it. So I have a difficult relationship with my son's father, and there are times when I wish he was a different person. But that in itself is something that needs healing. So when that difficult relationship comes up to mind, it's then taking the Ho'oponopono and directing it to myself, directing it to my thoughts, to my feelings, to the situation, but healing that part of me that created that situation. So that's how I would deal with that. It's always bringing it back to yourself. The other person, right, they're not relevant. When you heal that part in you, the situation will either resolve or go away. It's amazing how it happens, but you will notice shifts. And the other way I like to practice is not on specific events. just using it as a daily affirmation. So I might get stuck in my head. It is like stuck in your head, but using it as an affirmation again and again. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And thank you. Just saying it over and over again until it becomes a daily mantra, a daily affirmation, something that just becomes part of who I am. And I have dropped it a bit lately, but I'm going to come back to it because I've remembered how much I love this practice and how much of an impact it makes when I practice it on a day-to-day basis. So just as a quick practice, if you want to do it quietly as a mini Ho'oponopono practice, we can do that. So you would just sit comfortably. You could do it standing if you want, but ideally somewhere where you could be quiet and you can go within. And just put one hand on your heart or both hands on your heart if it's more comfortable. And bring to mind a situation or a person that you're having difficulties with. It could be anything. And when you start with something minor. If you go for the really big issues, sometimes it can be overwhelming. So think of something that's like a mild irritation. And as you're thinking about it, just say to yourself, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And notice if your body starts to respond with softening, breath deepening, or release. So this isn't a breath work, it's a bit of an emotional reset. And then if you have something that's really difficult that you're finding really tricky to release, just keep coming back to saying the phrases directed at it. So maybe you take 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and just keep repeating until things start to soften, things start to loosen, and you start to come back to feeling that strength and comfort and release. And maybe the problem resolves itself. Maybe it doesn't, but maybe you resolve it in your mind. So just remembering that this practice is not about fixing the world. It's just about healing the parts of you that need healing for everything that comes forward. And over time, that changes everything. So if you'd like this, if you've enjoyed this practice, remember to like and subscribe and drop a comment below and let me know what you liked the most. And if you would like to connect further, have more practices, get to know me a bit better as well, come and join my free group, The Sacred Pause. It's on School. I will drop the link in the description and I would love to see you on the inside.